Welcome to the RTÉ Soccer Podcast. Raf Diallo here. Our next episode will be coming to you on Monday when we'll be putting the microscope back on Heimer Hallgrimsson's Ireland ahead of this Nations League window, as well as reviewing the latest LOI and FAI Cup action. But on this bonus episode, I'm going to do something I try to do during some of the international breaks, and that is to get an insight into the Boys in Green's upcoming opponents from journalists from or based in the relevant country. And given that Ireland are taking on Finland in Helsinki on Thursday, I have the pleasure to be joined by Ari Virtanen, who was Finnish Football Journalist of the Year for 2018 and Sports Journalist of the Year for 2021 as well. And he writes for the Helsigin Sanomat newspaper. Ari, welcome to the podcast, and I hope you're keeping well. You've already told me it's temperatures are starting to drop after a fairly unusually high September in terms of temperatures there.
Thank you, Raf, for the invite. It's getting colder here after unusually warm September. But right now, the media here is starting to talk about these upcoming matches, and I guess the home audience awaits a bit more England match because of all the stars, but I reckon the coaching staff waits more Ireland.
Yeah, and because the September window for Ireland anyway ended up with two defeats, the England game probably not a surprise in terms of the result, but then to lose to Greece, and this is the start of supposedly the start of a new era, but also we were watching Finland's game also against Greece, and that ended up being a very comprehensive defeat. We'll talk about the consequences of that very shortly, but the fact that we're both coming in with 0 points in Finland as well as the Ireland game taking on sort of greater importance in terms of a need for a result given the new Nations League format?
I think so, yeah, because obviously, I guess no one is really expecting anything against England, which is such a strong team at the moment. But Ireland recently has been a quite good opponent for Finland in terms of what Finland can achieve in games against Ireland. And the level should be okay for Finland team right now.
Yeah, and one thing that was kind of interesting just from your writing and also having watched that Finland-Greece game live as well. So I remember Lucas Hradecki's mistake, which I think was a bit of a turning point. But, just the overall performance from a Finnish point of view, how impressed or otherwise were you? Obviously, the result, it's a 3-0 defeat, so it doesn't look good on paper. But you were talking about the new assistant coach, Jani Honkavara, and his imprint is actually probably the biggest thing in the team now in terms of where you are now in the Nations League compared to previously in the qualifying campaign for Euro 2024.
Yeah, we have to go back in time a little bit. Last European qualifier campaign was a disappointment. Obviously, Finland played in the playoffs against Wales, but that match in Cardiff was a huge disappointment as well. And after that, there were calls in media whether FA should sack head coach Markku Kanerva and replace him with someone else. And then FA chairman and sport director told that they are doing like researching their options and maybe evaluating whether they could find some good candidates for the future. But eventually they decided to shuffle the coaching staff of the national team so that of all the coaches, only head coach Markku Kanerva stayed, and also goalkeeping coach Antti Niemi. And two assistant coaches left the staff, and then they were replaced with Jani Honkavara, 48 years old Finnish coach who has won one championship in Finland with KuPS team from Kuopio, and that is like a challenger club to dominant club HAK in Finland. And now he could achieve a second championship within 6 years, and that would be quite an achievement in a club which is consistently challenging HAK, but with smaller resources. And then he was appointed to an assistant coach for Kanerva, and also former national team player Teemu Tainio, and also former national team captain Tim Sparv. So he has a new staff now, and they've told that they are doing more teamwork right now. So let's say the ideas and the voices of the coaching staff is more loud this time, so to say. So they maybe get their ideas through a little bit better than what previous assistant coaches were able to do, and also football associations chairman and sport director have told to Kanerva that the playing style needs to change, and maybe be a bit more attacking, or they should at least create more scoring chances. So therefore, there was a need for new playing style, and now Honkavara has clearly brought his own playing style to the national team. He played with KuPS style that tried to control the midfield, so that there were usually like 4 players occupying the midfield, like 2 number 6s and then one or 2 number 10s or 8s. So there was kind of like box midfield, and then the wing backs were pushing high, and this similar style has been brought now to national team, which is interesting to see how it will develop, and whether the players will adapt to it, and whether they are comfortable with that style. But at least after the Greece match, Lukas Radetsky said that they've committed to this new style, and they're trying to work with it.
Yeah, interestingly, I think just reading from your one of your columns in Helsigin Sanomat afterwards as well, and from everything you've just said there, where I think the assistants seem to have a lot more power, and Kanerva, is he sort of now become just more of a figurehead? And I think the translation was something along the lines that you'd written, like almost like a puppet ruler, in that he's nominally there, but in terms of how the playing style goes, he doesn't have as much of a say on it, at least individually.
Well, so it seems, but obviously he's still the head coach, and he makes the last calls. And but it seems that it seems so that this time assistant coaches have more to more power to influence. Yeah, but in a column you can use colorful language, and you can say that he seems like a puppet ruler right now.
In terms of Kanerva and in terms of his status within Finland, because when you look back at his history, he was under 21s manager for a long time, and then he became the Finland manager in 2016. And this is sort of the entire post-Golden generation era in a sense. And this includes a period where he's led Finland to the only major tournament you've qualified for in Euro 2020. Is he sort of a national hero in a sense for the role he has played?
Well, yes, you could say that. He's the most successful national team coach ever for Finland national football team, men's national football team, and he's greatly respected. Um, but obviously, there comes a time when people get tired of the same persons leading the team, and same ideas implemented, and so on. So um, maybe this could be a new start, but still it seems that maybe he's been there for too long. He
Yeah.
started already in December 2016, and that's a long time for one coach.
Yeah, and is there a sense also he's a bit of a sort of company man when it comes to the Football Association, given he's been first the under 21s manager, then the assistant, and then a manager for so long, and almost his entire coaching career has been within the within that kind of national team Football Association setup rather than through the club game.
That is true, but I guess that is the general truth what comes to national team coaches everywhere. Like you can see that in England or in Spain right now.
Yeah, that is definitely a kind of newer trend. And obviously, the last time we played Finland was back just before the delayed Euro 2020, and Ireland lost 1-0 home and away. And at the time, Finland were playing 4-4-2, very organised. And then the following summer, you played at the Euros and you beat Denmark, but I think in a game, which is remembered for other reasons in regards to what happened with Christian Eriksen in that game, but without reaching the last 16 ultimately. Was there a clamour for change even as far back as the end of that tournament in regards to either playing style or even maybe a change of manager back as far as Euro 2020 and the aftermath?
No, not really. I think after achieving the spot in Euro 2020, there wasn't any, and after that tournament, even though it was a bit of a disappointment, but there was no calls at that time. Maybe this kind of like need for a change has appeared in recent times.
Yeah. And in terms of now how Finland play on and off the ball, particularly against Greece in that first 30 minutes, from what I read from what you'd written in your columns, the counter pressing and how high they pressed in the first phase of that game was something that seemed to impress you. And then even in terms of the build-up play from the back and sort of the box shape, can you maybe just talk us through that as well and where Glenn Kamara also fits in?
Okay. Well, first of all, it seems that Finland is now trying to build up slowly with two center backs and the goalkeeper, and then the two number sixes. They kind of form the first box, and then the second box higher up in the field is formed with two number eights and the two sixes. And Kamara in this formation plays the number 8 spot, and last time, in Greece, Rasmus Schüller, who's a hugely important player for this Finland team, played a number 6 role, and also Matti Peltola from DC United played another number 6 role. And then they tried to build up the game through the center of the field, and then they were trying to use the space that Greece left behind their defense line. But those maybe the last passes of Finland team were not good enough in Greece, and also another factor was that they were trying to press really high, and they haven't really done that in the recent times. So it's kind of like a new thing to learn to get those timings correctly, and it backlashed in Greece. But maybe
Yeah.
they will get it right this fall. Let's see.
Hopefully not against Ireland anyway. But for now, in terms of the 11 overall, and I mean, it still seems to be the core of Hradecky in goal, Glenn Kamara as the sort of playmaker in midfield, and then of course the veteran Teemu Pukki, who's now 34. But looking at and this is something I think that from an Irish football point of view, we can also relate. Most of our players and our top players are not playing for the highest level of clubs. It's not like the Roy Keane playing for Manchester United thing of the past. And looking at the clubs that the current Finnish squad, other than Hradecky at Leverkusen and Kamara at Rennes, like Teemu Pukki is now playing in the United States with Minnesota United, and most of the Finnish players seem to be playing at an intermediate level within Europe or further afield. Is there a worry in Finland about the quality in the squad, and do you see some promising young players coming through to sort of boost what is there and what is a bit of an aging core?
Mm. Good point. First of all, if we look at Finland and Ireland teams and their transfer market values, that tells a lot about the strength of the teams. Ireland has 181 million euros of their team's transfer market value. Finland 42 million euros. So that tells already a lot about the quality of the players and where they play. We only have 5 players who play in top 5 leagues. Radetski obviously in Leverkusen, then Jesse Joronen and Joel Pohjanpalo in Venezia, Fredrik Jensen in Augsburg in Bundesliga, and Glenn Kamara in Ligue 1 in Rennes. So we don't have enough quality players, that's for sure, and that that's one of the reasons why we are constantly underdogs in many matches. But what comes to like promising youngsters, yeah, there are some promising youngsters, but they are not yet ready for this team, and there are some players who play in like second Bundesliga, for example, and in Portugal and places like that, but they haven't been called up to this team yet.
Yeah, and then if we cast back a little bit further, as I think I mentioned the term golden generation a little bit earlier, because when I was kind of growing up, when you think of Finnish footballers, you think about Jari Litmanen, who played for some of the biggest clubs across Europe and one of the greatest players of his generation. But even outside of him, you had Sami Huppi at Liverpool, you had Antti Niemi, who you mentioned earlier, who's on the staff, Jussi Jääskeläinen, and Mikael Forsell, who I know is coaching at HJK now, or at least is on the staff. Jonathan Johansson as well, who had a long Premier League career. They never qualified for anything. And although I think the one thing to note is it was harder to qualify for tournaments which were smaller back then in terms of pure numbers. But what is their legacy now? Obviously, I imagine in Finland they're regarded as as legends, but I suppose as a core and as a generation as a whole, how are they viewed now as time has passed on?
Well, they are still highly respected, and many of them have luckily given their skills to the Finnish football. Like, let's see, like Sami Hyypiä used to be a coach. Well, didn't go that well in the end for him, but he was a coach with a high profile for a while. Hannu Tihinen, he's a centre back pair from that team, is now working for FIFA, and he used to be a sport director of Finnish FA. Mikael Forsell is starting his coaching career right now with HJK Helsinki, and Jonathan Johansson is coaching in Scotland, and Jonas Kolka-Winger from PSV Eindhoven is also doing some coaching in Netherlands, and then Mika Nurmela, who played in Heerenveen and played in national team, is coaching in Finland and was assistant coach previously for Kanerva, and Teemu Tainio, who played in that team, is right now in the coaching staff. So there are plenty of players who have luckily continued somehow in football. But we have to remember also that at that time, it was way easier for Finnish players to reach top 5 leagues. Now, the competition is so much higher these days that it's way more difficult to reach that kind of level. Obviously, they were pretty good players, and some of them were world-class players, and they deserve to play at that level. But the difference is also that it's a different era right now.
Yeah, and one thing in regards to just going back to Jari Litmanen as well. I mean, I did notice. Well, I read an interview. I think it was earlier this year on the Guardian, and they noted that he doesn't grant a lot of interviews, but when he is interviewed, he's actually he's very open and he's very affable. And I also noticed he had an Instagram account, so he keeps himself sort of somewhat prominent, but without having to say too much. Does on Finnish TV does he do a lot of interviews back home, or is he sort of just someone who's very much in the background, or would you see him at football matches from time to time, just as a VIP guest somewhere?
He lives in Estonia, so with his family, so you don't see him that often in Finland. But he has been a commentator for a commercial TV channel here in Champions League matches.
Yeah, and in regards to where football fits culturally as well, I think Ireland maybe can relate in a certain way. Rugby is hugely popular here. We have our national sports like GA, but and I'm kind of speaking as someone who's a lifelong Formula One fan from when I was very little. So when I think of Finland and sport, I always think of, Kimi Räikkönen, Mika Häkkinen, Mika Salo, all those type of names. Or you go back to, JJ Leto. It's always been sort of motorsport, but also I know ice hockey is massively popular, and you have a sport called, I think, bandy as well. That's sort of like a vague similarities to ice hockey from what I've seen. Where does football fit in the hierarchy in terms of its cultural place?
Um, I'd say it's the number two like ball playing sports right now after ice hockey. Mm, and it's most popular like team sport what comes to the number of people who participate in football. There's I reckon the number is something like 160,000 licensed players right now in Finland, in a country of 5.6 million people right now. So
Yeah.
that's quite a lot. And but yeah, ice hockey is where has been generally more popular in the last few decades.
Yeah, and then the strength of the league, the Veikkaus League as well. I know HJK. No Irish club has ever qualified for the Champions League proper, but Finland has had that before with HJK back in 1998, 99. And that club as well has qualified for the smaller competitions, the Europa League, the Conference League. But generally, what's the strength of the league overall, and what type of attendances does it normally get?
Um, uh, Usually like few thousand. HAK might get like 5, 6,000. Some big matches could have like 8,000 or even sometimes full attendance of 10,000. Mm, Recently, I think there are a couple teams who are able to compete in European competitions. Cups that Jani Honkavaara has coached many years, and lately Tampere-based club called Ilves. They won Austria Wien in Conference League qualifications this summer, and they competed quite well also against Djurgården in same competition.
Yeah, and
So
yeah.
yeah. I just mean that in the future, I think we might see more Ilves in Conference League qualification games, and hopefully someday also in the main competition.
Yeah, and generally, what's the view of Ireland or the national or the Irish football team within Finland? Is there much known about it? Because as I said, a lot of our players aren't playing at the very, at the very top clubs nowadays in comparison to maybe 20 years ago, where you had Robbie Keane, Roy Keane, etc., playing at a high level. But is there much knowledge about the Irish team presently, or
I,
even the fact
I
we've
don't
a
I
we've a
don't
Heimer
think so.
Hallgrimsson?
I
No.
don't think so. But obviously those viewers who watch English Premier League, which is really popular in Finland, they'll recognize the name of your goalkeeper. That's for sure.
Okay, well that's fair enough. Yeah, and then I suppose finally as well, we talked about the weather earlier on. Lots of Irish fans always travel in numbers to away games, and they're going to be there in numbers in Helsinki. What do they have to prepare for in terms of conditions and temperatures and everything else, just so they know in advance?
wind and rain and cold temperatures.
So a bit like back home, except maybe not quite as cold.
That is true.
Yeah, we've been having quite a bit of rain here there recently. But look, obviously the game is on Thursday, and that's a great insight from you as well. And of course, Finland versus Ireland, you can watch it on RT2 and the RT Player. Ari Virtanen, thanks very much for your time.